Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Sunday, September 8th, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. And also, don't forget to check out the NFL edition of Ron's Rundown, which is up already. It goes over all the Sunday games and Monday Night Football. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for the Major League card on Sunday. First up, we see the Roku game between the Rays and the Orioles. We got Zach Littell and Corbin Burnes on the mound. Corbin Burnes is not in the best form right now, and even that last game against the White Sox, where it looked like a solid outing on paper and ended up being a blowout win for Baltimore, we know Burnes had some issues, especially early in that outing. The White Sox were able to get a couple of runs in the first inning, and they were able to raise that pitch count early, and he only had 4 strikeouts through 5 innings and only went 5 innings. I mean, we're used to seeing Burnes go 6+, earn plenty of missed bats, but he's gone less than 6 innings in his last 4 games, and I think that the Rays can get to him for a couple of runs. Zach Littell's not been great on the road this season, but his last road game against a tough opponent was the Houston Astros on August 3rd. He went 5 2/3, a 1-run ball, and a 6-1 Rays win. I'm going to back the Rays in this game, plus the 1.5 runs on the run line. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Boston Red Sox. Chris Flexen going for Chicago, Brian Bayo going for the Red Sox. Last week, it got a little bit cute backing Chris Flexen against the Orioles. It was a pretty good situation on paper, and the White Sox took an early lead, but Chris Flexen was not sharp in that game yet again. Ended up being another loss for the White Sox with Flexen on the mound. We know the big-time losing streak. They've only won 2 Chris Flexen starts all year. The last one was back in May. Now we have to go back to continue to fade the White Sox with Flexen on the mound. I got to roll the Red Sox here on the money line and run line. Bayo has not had the sharpest season in terms of his numbers, but the Red Sox still win a good amount of his games, and I think he pitches well enough. The Red Sox, bats back him up. They win this game and cover the run line at Fenway. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Atlanta Braves. We got Yariel Rodriguez and Chris Sale on the mound. To me, it's a lopsided pitching matchup in favor of Atlanta. Chris Sale's having a Cy Young caliber season, while Yariel Rodriguez was pitching well at the beginning, but looks like he's running out of gas recently. Not really pitching as well, and even last game he only went 3 innings. So to me, I think the Braves get on the board early, don't look back, and win this game and cover the run line. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Patrick Corbin and Jared Jones are your starters. We're getting an excellent price with the Nationals in this game, and with how well Patrick Corbin has pitched recently, I think it's worth a shot. I mean, Patrick Corbin, we know in the last couple of years and at the beginning of this season has been, one of the weakest starting pitchers in baseball. But his last 5 games, the Nationals are 4-1 in those 5 games, by the way. But it's not like he's just getting lucky and, his defense is bailing him out. He's pitching the same way, but just, getting better results. I mean, he's been able to miss a lot of bats recently. He's had 8+ strikeouts in 2 of his last 3 starts. He's had a strikeout or about a strikeout per inning or more in his last 3 games, and his control's been a little bit better. He's only given up 1 home run in his last 4 games combined, and I think that, against a Pirates team, it's not been great against lefties. Corbin could put together another quality start. Jared Jones has been a little bit shaky since returning from injury. I'm going to go with the Nationals here, plus the 1.5 on the money line. Next up, the Cincinnati Reds taking on the New York Mets. No official starter for Cincinnati, but Luis Severino should be going for New York. Severino's pitched well this year with a 10-6 record, sub-4 ERA. He's in solid forms, coming off a good outing in that last one against the Red Sox. 7 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts, and a 4-1 Mets win. The Mets have won 3 of his last 4 games, and all those wins were by more than 1 run. I'm going to take a lean here with the Mets on the run line. We'll see who the official starter is for Cincinnati, but I think the Mets back up Severino and win another big game at Citi Field. Next up, the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Miami Marlins. We're going to see Seth Johnson making his Major League debut for Philadelphia. Max Meyer going for the Marlins. Johnson's pitched pretty well in the minor leagues this season, especially in the last month, and I think that's the reason why he got the call up to make his debut in this game. He faces one of the weaker lineups in baseball, so I think it's a solid matchup at Lone Depot Park, pitcher-friendly ballpark. Max Meyer on the other side's not been pitching well for the Marlins this season with that 5.68 ERA. I think the Phillies have the better lineup, the better bullpen, and honestly, the better starting pitcher in this game. So give me the Phillies in this one on the money line and run line. Next up, the Rockies and the Brewers. We're going to see Kyle Freeland and Freddie Peralta on the mound. I think we're going to see a low-scoring game here. Freddie Peralta against a Rockies team that we know has struck out a ton against right-handed pitching in the last month, especially on the road. I think it's a good matchup for him, but I also think Kyle Freeland and just overall that the Rockies rotation in general has been a lot better recently. Freeland, we know, had the miserable start to the season, and that's why his ERA is still at 5.3, but in the second half of the year, he's been a much better pitcher. I know he's better at Coors Field than he is on the road, but I still think he pitches pretty well in this game, and we go under the number in Brewers-Rockies. Next up, the Minnesota Twins taking on the Kansas City Royals. Simeon Woods-Richardson and Michael Wacha are your starters. Yeah, I think that this is a tough matchup for Woods-Richardson on the road at Kauffman Stadium. We know it's a tough place to pitch to begin with, but the Royals themselves have been so strong offensively at Kauffman this year and even last year. And I think that Woods-Richardson's a starting pitcher that's got a lot of potential. We've seen, he's got promising numbers so far this year, but in the second half of the year, I haven't loved what I've seen from him in terms of giving up a lot of base runners, a lot of sharp contact. He's given up at least one home run in 4 of his last 5 games. And the strikeout numbers have also been very inconsistent recently. I think that's an issue here against the Royals. And Michael Wacha, he's been a very profitable pitcher for KC. His last 2 starts were losses, but both of those were against the Guardians. Very tough matchup. I think we see him get back in the win column here, and I like the Royals to win this game on the money line. Next up, the Seattle Mariners taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Luis Castillo and Miles Mikolas are your starters. Castillo's had an up and down season, and we saw him give up those 9 earned runs in a 2-start span against the Pirates and Giants, but he's bounced back since with 2 strong outings against the Rays and the A's in his last 2 starts. I think he pitches pretty well in this game at Busch Stadium, and Miles Mikolas has not been great at home this season. ERA just below 6 with a 1-5 record at home, 72 1/3 innings with only 49 strikeouts. I think the Mariners, while not a great lineup, should be able to get to Mikolas for a couple of runs. I like this Mariners bullpen as well, so give me Seattle on the money line. Next up, the New York Yankees taking on the Chicago Cubs. Garrett Cole and Jameson Taillon on the mound. Taillon, of course, facing his former team. And he's pitched really well at Wrigley Field this season, 2.64 ERA. His last game was at Wrigley against the Pirates. It was 7 innings of shutout baseball, but I still think that he had a better first half of the season than he's been the second half. I think there are some regression concerns going forward, and this is a tough matchup against the Yankees and Garrett Cole. I just don't think, I think Garrett Cole pitches well in this one, even though the Cubs have been a strong lineup recently. Cole's in great form right now for the Yankees. He's been that ace-level starting pitcher, and I think the Yankees find a way to win this game and cover the run line. Should be a lower-scoring game, but give me the Yanks on the run line. Next up, the Angels and the Rangers. We got Caden Dana for the Angels and Andrew Heaney for the Rangers. I'm going to lean towards the Rangers in this one, but I just don't see a lot of value in a game like this. Heaney's pitched well, and it's why his ERA is now sub-4 on the season. He's been even better at Globe Life Field at 3.32 ERA in 65 innings, 72 strikeouts. I don't love this Angels lineup, so I think Heaney puts together another strong outing, 5-6 quality innings. Dana, his first start of the year, it was solid, 6 innings, 2 runs, but gave up a home run, 4 walks, only 4 strikeouts, and it was against a much weaker lineup in the Mariners. Now on the road against the Rangers, I think it's a tough matchup for him. So give me the Rangers in this one, laying the 1.5 runs on the run line. Next up, the Detroit Tigers taking on the Oakland Athletics. We're going to see JT Ginn for Oakland, no official starter for Detroit. Now, the game with Tarek Skubal on the mound in this series looked to be the best spot for Detroit, and they weren't even able to win that game. So it's tough. I mean, with how well the A's have played in the second half of the season, they've just been so much more competitive. I mean, offensively, that top half of the lineup is pretty deadly. And I think if they can make some pickups in the offseason, which, it's the A's, they don't necessarily always do that. But if they could find a couple of bats for the back end of the lineup, they could be a very strong offense in 2025. The bullpen's also improved quite a bit. We know Mason Miller, but even some other guys like Grant Holman, rookies that are pitching well for the A's. And the starting rotation, it's got some promising pieces. And JT Ginn so far, 4.3 ERA and 14 2/3. We know that one game against the Reds was not his best, but outside of that one start, he's pitched pretty well either out of the bullpen or in his starting pitching role for the A's. I'm going to roll with the Athletics in this one on the money line. The game I think is going to be pretty low scoring. Next up, the Guardians and the Dodgers. We got Tanner Bybee and Jack Flaherty. Great pitching matchup in this one. And this is a game where you got 2 division-leading teams, 2 great starting pitchers in this one, but because it's the Dodgers, the big-name public team, against the Guardians, a small-market team that always flies under the radar, we get a great price with Cleveland in this game, in my opinion. I think Bybee is just as capable as Flaherty, especially when you look at Bybee's numbers on the road. He's been a lot better than when he's pitching at Progressive Field. And Flaherty's been solid with the Dodgers, but I would say he's been a lot better when he was a member of the Tigers earlier in the season than so far with LA. I mean, we saw the game against the Pirates where he gave up 4 runs in 5 2/3, a couple of bombs against the Orioles in a loss back on August 27th. So he's given up 6 home runs in his last 5 starts combined. There's an avenue for me for the Guardians to find a way to win this game. And at this kind of price, I think it's definitely worth a shot. So give me Cleveland on the money line. Next up, the San Francisco Giants taking on the San Diego Padres. No official starter for San Francisco, but Joe Musgrove should be going for the Padres. This San Diego team is a lot more dangerous if Joe Musgrove can continue to pitch like this. He's somebody that at the beginning of the season dealt with some injuries, but also just inconsistencies in his game, and that's why he still has an ERA above 4, but he has been so sharp since returning from injury. His first 5 games back have been 3 earned runs or fewer, all 5 of those starts. A lot of quality starts, a lot of strikeouts. No home runs given up in those 5 games as well, which is really impressive. And I think he pitches well against a Giants team that they are very power dependent. We've mentioned that a couple of times where San Francisco, their OPS not so great, their strikeout rate's pretty high. They have a pretty good isolated power number against right-handed pitching in the last month, but like we just mentioned, Musgrove has been able to keep the ball on the ground, limit that sharp contact. So I think it's a great matchup for him like it was for Michael King. So give me the Padres in this game on the money line and run line. And the final game we're to talk about for the Sunday card in Major League Baseball, it's on ESPN at 7 p.m. Eastern. The Diamondbacks and the Astros, Ryan Nelson and Justin Verlander are your starters. Another great pitching matchup in this one, but I've mentioned Ryan Nelson has been a completely different pitcher in the second half of the year than he was at the beginning of the season, and he still has a 4.15 ERA, but he is not pitching like that kind of pitcher. He has been very competitive on the mound for Arizona. His last 5 games, 2 earned runs or fewer in all 5 starts. Good strikeout numbers to go with it. And I think against Justin Verlander, who has not been as strong as we've seen in recent years and obviously in his entire career, I think the Diamondbacks, a very tough lineup, should be able to get to Verlander. They do a great job of getting on base. They steal bases. They limit strikeouts. And even their power numbers have improved. Verlander, I think, could be in trouble in this one. And he's not been great at Minute Maid Park this season. 0-2 with an ERA just below 5 at 4.98. Give me the Diamondbacks in this one at a great price on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and put those baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.